Okay, so this morning, of course, drawing on Bristol board with my Koh-i-Noor Progresso pencil, and I'm going to do a really quick character illustration. I've been watching a lot of I don't know if you guys watch on YouTube and whatnot, but Disney actually has been doing something really cool. A lot of their animators and illustrators and the people that work for them have been, doing something similar to this, but they'll draw Disney characters. I actually came really close this morning to doing that. I was gonna, draw Pinocchio, and I might still do that. But you guys know that I love drawing character art. I love doing character illustrations. I love doing anything to do with animals or creatures or anything like that. And one of the things that I really have found out, especially recently being, quarantined or whatever you want to call it, that, sometimes drawing becomes that release, right? Some people have drinking, some people have, substances, other people have exercise, which I do. I have a lot of, I do cycling, that's my kind of shtick. But this right here also is my shtick. And, I think that if you really, really are interested in being an artist, especially in the professional field, there always has to be that part of you that wants to improve. And that's kind of where I'm at. Recently, especially having more time than I know what to do with, I've purchased a lot of courses. You would think, gosh, Mike, you're a professional illustrator, you do toy design, you do 3D sculpting, you do all these things. But the reality is, guys, and I've been going back and forth today with somebody on LinkedIn that asked me a bunch of questions, and they showed me their portfolio and they wanted me to critique them, and I get a lot of things like that, and I have no problem doing that, helping a fellow artist out. And I think a lot of times what people do if they want to get into this field is they want a quickie. I call them quickies. Quickies, the quick fix, the magic bullet, the one thing that'll help them, and after they get that one critique, and then suddenly they're going to take those marching orders, and they're going to go and change their life, and they're going to get all these wonderful jobs. And that's just something that doesn't exist, unfortunately. And one of the things that I told this particular individual was, after reviewing their portfolio, which was fine, their portfolio was fine. I don't ever knock on somebody, especially whenever they're trying to learn. And one of the things that I wanted to iterate to him was the fact that it takes a lot of time. This whole drawing thing that we're doing, is a skill. Drawing is a skill that you can learn, and basically, what we need to, realize is, even though drawing is a skill, being creative is not. Being creative is not a skill. You can have principles and things that you rely upon to help you in the creative process, but being creative it's a muscle, and you have to exercise that muscle. And putting stuff into your creative bank account, which is your brain, and really investing in that creative muscle that you exercise, and having imagination. And everybody's got an imagination. I'm a firm believer in that. But what you have to realize, drawing, in the context of being a professional, drawing is expected. Okay, being able to understand form, gesture, composition, design, the principles of design, all these things, emotion, being able to put character into your character, line weight, all of these things are part of a skill set, right? I've had people, that indicate, oh, talented, you're so talented, and I don't like using or even accepting the whole notion of quote-unquote talent. There is a degree of natural ability that I can see, and the way my brain processes the information. But the reality is talent, I think, is a blanket term that a lot of people don't quite understand what it is. And, you know, talent is a natural ability to see something or to process information in such a way that it's easier for me to communicate from my brain, from my eyes to my brain to my hand, to be able to put it on paper or in a digital environment. That's why I always say that, you know, the whatchamacallit, the computer, a lot of times is such a hard device to be creative at in the beginning, because you're trying to learn something with your brain, but then you're trying to be creative with your brain and then transfer it down to your hand. So what basically I'm trying to say is, you know, during this time, I've really tried to take stock of exactly what I want to do, you know, as I'm sure everybody has done, what I want to do with, you know, my career. I've had a couple hiccups, I'll be honest with you. You know, in the beginning, I was very happy in saying that, you know, the whole virus thing didn't really affect me, because, you know, my position is, you know, being a developer and a creative, and art typically prospers in times like this. But it did. I mean, one of my clients dropped off, and I had to basically really shuffle things around. And currently I'm searching for new jobs and new work, because, you know, I still haven't replaced that income that I lost. And honestly, it's not frightening, because, you know, I don't live my life paycheck to paycheck. That's not the way that my life is designed. So we've had a buffer, so, which is really good. But it's been challenging, guys. The creative world, you know, is driven on consumer. You know, even it depends on the way you look at it, because I've always been like I said, a firm believer in knowing that art will always be one of those jobs that will always be there. But after this whole thing, it's been a challenge, to be honest with you. You know, what am I trying to say, basically? I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling on as I do this character illustration. So, gosh, you know, how would I evaluate somebody that just, you know, they don't know what they want to do. They want to go into a specific, you know, genre of art. And my recommendation, basically, to this particular person was to draw and to really go in and have some fun, you know, find out what you really want to do. If you want to do illustration work, you know, learn about illustration work, learn about illustrators, learn about what's gone before you, you know, learn about what are the markets for illustration, you know, product design, and so on and so forth, and, you know, kind of figure out what the best avenue is for you to start. And then from there, it's just, man, it's just a lot of drawing and a lot of you know, time and sacrifice and things that I don't think a lot of people are really expect to happen. You know, that old notion was, if you're good, you're always going to have work. And that is not necessarily true, unfortunately. You know, I consider myself to be okay. I'm not great. And I've had a really just challenge getting new jobs and new work, just because of the nature of what's going on right now. You know, and those getting into the business is always going to be there, because, you know, we do have consumerism and stuff like that, and products to be sold and stuff. But it is and has been a challenge to keep a positive attitude during this time, to say the least. So what am I working on? Today I'm just doing a really quick character sketch study of my character in arms, Beans. Beans is a alligator. He's from the rural swamps of Louisiana, and he's just got a really great positive attitude about life. You know, just a really fun creature that loves to have a good old time, right? It harkens back to whenever I actually lived in Louisiana for a very large portion of my life. And it's not like other places, right? You know, I lived in Florida, I've lived in Louisiana. Currently I live in the very north mountains of Georgia. And, you know, this place is not like any other place that I've ever lived, ever. And that's not to say it's a good thing. You know, the people here are a little bit different. And that's, again, not saying it's a great thing. But there's going to be that pretty much anywhere. So that's what Beans is. He's a happy-go-lucky kind of creature. You know, and I've simplified, I've drawn him a ton of different ways, but the character and the spirit of him always stays the same. He's always kind of that, you know, that fun-loving, you know, listen to some Creole music, and it's got a little bit of a Creole no? You know, and just I love doing this particular character, because it kind of gets me out of the doldrums, right? So, starting out with basic shapes, moving into kind of sculpting the character and figuring out the forms. You know, a really good example of that would be this tail right here, because the tail is really wide at the base, and then it kind of, you know, you can see a little bit of it over here, and then it kind of curves under, and then it kind of curves towards you just a little bit, right? And what I like to do sometimes is just put a little bit of construction lines in there to help me out, right? Another thing that I told this particular individual was he, you know, building up that visual bank account. You know, I got that terminology from a great artist by the name of Jake Parker. And Jake Parker is, you know, part artist, part illustrator, and also part artistic philosopher. I think he's got some great ideas. And it's really great to hear somebody that's been in the business a while and had as much success as Jake has had, you know, to really sew back into the people and not so much give you a right or wrong answer, but it gives you answers that make sense to you. And, you know, that's one of the things he said, you know, those of you who are really struggling with imagination really need to start investing in your visual bank account. You know, get in there, get some new, you know, look at some pictures and do a study and maybe take a course and nobody's above taking courses, honestly. You know, I'm constantly buying courses. I'm constantly trying to better myself. And that's something that I really encourage you to do as possible artists and illustrators. So I think next time I will do the Disney. Let's see, I've got a tooth right here. Let's get a little one right here. Let's get one that comes right here. And here's a butterfly he wants to get. So let's go ahead and do this. You know, got his little pinky that comes out. Now what I'm doing is I'm just going back and I'm refining my sketch, reestablishing where the forms are, right? Based upon the fact that I've drawn a lot of alligators during my time, and Beans has some spots here and there. I kind of know where stuff is. Do I have the absolute market on anatomy for an alligator? No, but I know just enough to get me into trouble, right? Yeah, okay, so now we're going to put some spines and scales. Okay, he's got his little dark spots here and there on his tail. Comes here, you know, and two, one of the little things that I like to say, especially for, you know, possible budding artists, is, you know, you don't have to specialize. You know, that's the great thing about art. You know, everybody wants to be defined and put in a box, and that's the box that they live in. right? I'm going to be an illustrator. I'm going to be a character designer. I'm going to be a concept artist. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that. But the reality is today, in today's market, you want to be more marketable and be able to do things a little bit, outside your comfort zone. So constantly try. It's like me in 3D. I originally didn't want to do 3D because honestly, 3D, the terminology, the way you have to learn the programs, you have to do certain things and understand, the lingo but I went ahead and stepped out and started doing 3D work, and now I've actually got quite a few 3D projects going right now, which I really like. Is it my end-all bag? Is that where I'm going to be defined? Is that where I'm going to have the most success in my career? Honestly, I don't know. I'm just here trying to learn something new. I learned ZBrush a while back, and I'm still learning ZBrush because it's such a huge, robust program. And I recently purchased a program about Blender, so I'm going to add Blender to my artistic tool belt. And once that happens, once that's done, eventually I might learn Mudbox or one of those other programs and just really try and add things as I go. Not stopping, not saying, oh, that's not for me. I'm always just trying to get better and learn and be a better artist in general. Okay, so now I have, let's go ahead and do this. There's a little net. Okay. And what I tried to tell this, person as a line of encouragement is, drawing is a skill. It can be learned. But one of the things you have to remember is being creative and telling a story takes a bit more than just learning how to draw. You can have a person that can draw really well, but can't tell a story with their characters, can't come up with new characters. They always have to look at something. And that, being creative takes a bit more. And that's one of the things that I tried to iterate to this person. It is a challenge. Being able to manipulate your mind's eye and see things that aren't there. Relying upon those basic principles designed to help you out. It's challenging. So I tried to encourage him. It is hard. Drawing's hard. Being creative's hard. Or at least it is for me. Let's get that thumb right here. There we go. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this hat. He's got a hat that he wears. That comes down. It's kind of squiggled out here, right? So you can see that he's trying to get this little creature here. So I have been putting off finishing the Slimer turns just because I've had so much other work. And I just got through doing some digital work yesterday, and I wanted to get off the computer, and I wanted to draw something traditionally for you guys today, so that's why we're doing this. So, let's get his spots. He's got some spots. Now what I'm doing is I'm going back and I'm kind of reestablishing some of the visual cues that help reaffirm his gesture, right? Like this little thumb that comes up, he's got his finger that comes around, he's got his other finger, and he's got his that. Kind of establish a silhouette, looking for tangents. I don't like tangents. You know, maybe color in his scales. Right, so that comes down. Okay. Right. Okay. He's got a scale that comes right here. I'm not really digging this hand. This hand's not feeling right. But I'm okay with it right now. So anyway, that's kind of what I wanted to show you guys today. Just a really quick illustration. I think next time I might draw Pinocchio, because whenever I'm watching those Disney, you know, of course we all do this as artists. You know, we're always like, oh, I can do that. And of course you sit down and then you try to do it and you're like, oh, I'm a complete failure. You know. You know, I've said on this channel before, I had the opportunity and the, just, you know, the blessing to be able to work at Disney for almost 2 years in-house, and it was just a great experience, and just really understanding that, you know, even though those people are wonderful, they're not superhuman. You know, they still make mistakes. There's still things that they need to do. They still improve all the time. And, you know, every studio that you work in, you're going to have people that are a lot better than you. And you'll be better than some people. It's to be humble and to understand that you all are in that place together. You're all in there to improve. You're all in there with a singular vision. And it's just, you know, it's a great time. You know, being in a studio is a great thing. Eventually, maybe things will change, and you won't be in a studio for your entire career. I mean, look at me. I thought I was going to be in a studio for my entire career. You know, did I think I was going to freelance? No. Did I think I was going to design toys and write and do children's books and even be a 3D artist? No. That's the thing about being open. You have to be open. You have to be open to change. You have to be open to the things that you don't expect, especially being an artist. The second you start not to, you know, look at things with an open mind as far as artistically speaking, that's whenever you start to become stagnant. So what I'm going to do next is I'll probably take my kneaded eraser. I'm not even sure if I can erase this. It erases a little bit, doesn't it? Not a lot. No, I won't. I'll just keep it like this. Just keep it like this. Right? A little black dot right there. Right? Anyway, thanks guys for visiting the channel today. Hopefully you got something. Like and subscribe and share. I'm trying to grow the channel. You guys have heard me said that 100,000 times. But I am trying to grow the channel. There we go. He's like, I'm going to get that thing. And if you are watching my channel and you are visiting here from LinkedIn or anything like that, I am currently accepting new clients and looking for work, whether it's contract work, permanent work, whatever it is. Looking for illustration work, design work, 3D work, right? Animation, whatever is needed in your studio, I am here for you. It's like that old Ghostbusters advertisement. We are here for you. Okay, so I switched over to time-lapse just because I didn't want this video to be excessively long. I know that I've got a myriad of different
different subscribers that like different levels. You know, some like a lot of talking, some like no talking, so on and so forth. So today, right now, what I'm doing to the drawing is I'm inking. And what I ran into while I was inking, actually I didn't run into it until a little bit later, was the Koh-i-Noor woodless pencils do not accept ink on top of them. So a little bit later you'll see that I did some erasing with my kneaded eraser, and what inadvertently happened was I ended up erasing some of the ink lines because they just came right off of the wax. As well as whenever I started putting down some of the alcohol-based markers, the pencil, you know, the Koh-i-Noor wax material didn't accept any of the alcohol substrates. So I was kind of frustrated, to say the least, but I did like the drawing, how it turned out. I'm using a brush pen, and I use quite a few different pens. You'll see me switch back and forth here because it had been a while since I've done a drawing like this. I used to draw like this all the time. I did, gosh, I've got hundreds and hundreds of drawings on traditional paper using, you know, traditional media. You see me, I'm getting a little frustrated with my kneaded eraser because that's the next stage. Is typically I'll roll over my red and it'll get rid of the majority of my red if I use a color erase pencil because that's erasable. However, that Koh-i-Noor is not erasable, baby. So I just got frustrated. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put in the local color. And, you know, that's what happens whenever you start using different types of materials, different tools of the trade. You know, I'm not working in a digital environment. So unless I've got a piece of paper to the side that I do a bunch of tests on, you know, what I put down is what I fly with. And, you know, I just kind of rolled with the punches today. And that's kind of what I did. But anyway, you guys see that I'm putting in local color. Local color is you know, color that doesn't have any light or shadow on it. But the way that I work with markers is just because the way that markers work is I do a saturation pass, which, you know, I'll put a saturation pass through, and then I'll come back with the same exact color, and I'll hit the shadows, the areas that I think are shadows, and it darkens it a little bit, and then that'll give me an idea where I want to put the shadows whenever I go back with all of my you know, all of my grays and my purples and my greens. And yeah, so anyway, the reason why I'm talking is because I'm kind of fretting. I'm editing the video as we speak, and I'm kind of fretting putting in any more music, and I'm going to have to do that because, you know, time lapse. And I'm using a different piece of software because my old software kept crashing my computer. So anyway, I'll do a little wrap up at the end for you guys, and hopefully you're enjoying the video. Not too long today, not too difficult. So anyway, we'll do a wrap up at the end. Enjoy.
Okay, so that's where I'm going to land with this piece. Typically what I'll do is I'll go in with a final highlight, and I typically will use this type of marker right here. This isn't really a marker. This is a acrylic paint, I guess a marker. But the problem is it being acrylic, if you don't use it a lot, I don't think these tops seal very well. And what happens inadvertently is they dry out and they get really hard. So I've got a bunch of them that I've utilized and used over the years. You guys can see I've got different sizes and stuff, and they still got plenty of paint in them. Unfortunately, they dry out, and it's very frustrating. Like this one, this is a really good example. You know, there's still paint in it, but the tip is completely solid, and you can't use it for pretty much, you know, it's garbage. So I think what I'm going to do is go through these, and then I'm going to end up getting maybe a you know, a little palette or something with some white paint, and I'll go back with a brush and I'll touch up. Not today, but later on, maybe, I don't know. You know, but that's it. That's, you know, kind of the whole shtick when it comes to this particular drawing. If you guys watch the time lapse, which hopefully if you've ended up right here, you notice that these red places, they're not taking the material from the marker. So unfortunately, again, you know, this is a process of learning. You know, I was using this particular pencil, the Koh-i-Noor Progresso pencil, to sketch in stuff and to shade stuff because I like the feel of it. Unfortunately, it being wax, it fills up the paper too much, and then whenever you go and put other media over it, it doesn't accept it. So even though I did my black line work, I'm probably going to end up going over the line work again here in a few minutes. I don't know. I'm just, it's one of those deals where I get into the drawing and I really like the way it turned out, but then there are aspects of it that really frustrate me, and I'm kind of at the point where I want to move on to the next drawing. So hopefully you guys got something from this drawing. I do love working with markers. It's one of my favorite things to work with. It's kind of like having more control with the watercolor. And also I do work in watercolor, so, but I like markers because it's convenient. I've got a whole collection of them, and you know, I've got not only just cheap artist loft markers that I paid you know, 50 cents for or $1 for, but also I've got the more expensive Copic markers, and I've got, gosh, Winsor Newton markers, I've got Prisma markers, and you name it. So anyway, thank you guys for visiting. We'll see you soon.